we were pissing neon green every day.
The big ball of heat in the sky was too much.
I thought there was a
bear.
Reality goes, yeah, fresco. That's what I'm saying.
Hey, everybody. What's up, everybody?
Welcome to
StouryTime.
StouryTime. Hey, everybody. Welcome to StouryTime with John and Friends. I'm your host, John. Today, I'm joined by new friend John Carbone, who sings for the band Moontooth. How you doing today, John?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on, man. We've actually done this before. Unfortunately, we had some technical difficulties, and I lost all of the data. And so we're doing it again. But this is like, I don't know, 6 months later, basically, right?
Yeah, and I really don't remember what we were talking about.
To be completely honest, neither do I. So that's perfect. Yeah. Why don't you tell the people about yourself a little bit?
My name is John Carbone. I sing in the band Moontooth. We've been a band for just over 10 years. And we bust our ass on the roads, and touring is a huge part of who we are as a band and as people. It's really like a huge part of our personal identities. Touring has been one of the most amazing experiences of my life. So it's always a blast to sit down and talk about it and share some stories from the road. It's especially when you talk to other band people or music people, it's like, there's always so much you can relate to and laugh about, and people who kind of like understand the ups and the downs of it all. And boy, there are some really high ups and some really low downs.
Absolutely. So and I feel like everybody experiences both of those at times. So
yeah,
it's always fun to share that stuff. Currently, you guys recently just released a new single in October, right?
Yep.
Song rips, dude. It's
Thanks,
awesome.
Man.
Yeah, it shreds. And then I love to, as a drummer, I focus on drums for like the first listen through, and like there's even a dancey part on the drums. That, dude, this song, it's really good. Really enjoy.
Yeah, thanks, man. I'm very very blessed to play with musicians that I play with. They're some of the best I've ever met. So it's pretty cool.
Absolutely. Do you guys have a new record coming out or planned or in the works or anything?
We got some stuff in the works. I don't know how much I can or cannot say, but you may or may not be seeing some stuff trickle out from us.
Love that. Keep your eyes and ears peeled, people. All right. Well, let's just dive right in. You got some stories for us?
Yeah, definitely. I decided I'm just going to tell you about the oil changes and nothing else. So Perfect. It's all times that we were just kind of sitting around waiting for an oil change. No,
now, are we talking about a vehicle or?
No. So, I mean, gosh, there's some crazy. I think you had asked me for a list. What was I had mentioned a couple of things to you. What was the first thing? I can't remember.
The first thing that you mentioned to me was the piss couch.
The piss couch. Okay, yes. That is a good place to start. Okay. So this was possibly our first longer tour that wasn't just like a weekender of the Northeast, because that's when we started. We started playing obviously all over Long Island. We upstate, Boston, Philly, and whatnot. But the first longer run we went on, we were playing in Virginia with our buddies. I think it was Beyond the Throne. And we crashed at their jam space, which was like a warehouse. And it was like a really big kind of warehouse area, like the second floor of it, and lots of different rooms. And it was just, the place just kind of had a haunted, weird kind of vibe, like that's the big thing that we'll talk a lot about is just the weird places that you stay. And in one of the rooms, because there was a lot of jam rooms, like in one of the rooms, there was a couch, and no bands played in this room anymore, but there used to be, like, there's posters on the wall and carpets and everything. And when we asked, about going to the bathroom, because we were sleeping at the studio, or the jam space rather, they were like, yeah, well, if you got to go take a dump, you just go across the street to Dunkin' Donuts, And if you gotta piss, you gotta either pee in a bottle or use the piss couch. And we're like, what? So our buddy showed us this room where this couch was in, and I don't know why, but at some point somebody just started pissing on the couch, and then it became a thing where all the bands in the area, because it was like if you could imagine the way like an office is kind of set up, where there's different rooms, and like it was big, so where we were sleeping was nowhere near the piss couch, thank God. Right. But yeah, in one of these rooms was a piss couch, and as soon as you walked in the doorway, you were just hit in the face with like ammonia. Like it was gnarly.
That's rough.
Yeah, but of course we all peed on the couch, because how are you gonna not? You have an opportunity to just like pee on a couch like that intentionally.
It's like a rite of passage.
yeah, it was, and it was a good introduction to like the crazy kind of less than stellar places you might find yourself in, or like the unusual circumstances.
Yeah.
Which there were many more of during the year. A lot of times having to do with bathroom stuff, unfortunately.
That's funny. That is funny. Next here we have South by Southwest. Several good stories you've put down.
Okay, yeah. South by was really amazing. This was 2015, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
I was dating somebody and living with someone, and we split up, and a big part of that is because of just lives going different ways. This is a good person, good relationship, but it's a lot to ask of somebody to to put up with this lifestyle of like going away and coming back and having these tour plans advanced in the future. So yeah, it was like she moved out, and then the next morning I woke up. The first night I had like staying there alone. The next morning I woke up, we got the word that like we got an offer to play South by Southwest, which is crazy and like really interesting timing. Because I'd always wanted to play that. That was definitely like a huge goal of mine and ours as a band. So yeah, we did a tour, and we routed through to Texas, and yeah, it was the festival was an awesome experience. Our buddy Paul Motisi, who has done a lot of artwork for us, a lot of our t-shirts and whatnot that you see, that's Paul. A lot of our like show flyers is Paul. The single you were talking about, Grimathy, the artwork for that was Paul. A lot of our logos, our album Crux, Paul put that together, the title. Anyway, so yeah, Paul's my one of my best friends from going back to like high school. And so Paul ended up meeting us in like Alabama or somewhere like that. And then, just like us in the van, and then him in his like Honda Civic. He just kind of came along to South by Southwest.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really fun. I'm trying to think of where to start here. Jesus. So yeah, the festival was just awesome. It was really cool to meet so many different artists of all sorts of varieties. The show we played was really great. I forget who the hell we played with. I want to say Veil Amaya and a bunch of other bands. We were the baby openers at that show.
Okay.
But the show went great. We were just scheduled to play that one show, and then we got word that we got offered like another show at a smaller place. And this was really cool. I can't even remember the name of the place, but yeah, that was cool. What we were going to do, because we were going to be at the festival for a couple of days, we were going to take mushrooms the next day and just walk around the festival. So we got the show offer, and I'm like, hell yeah, let's do it. Of course, that's usually our attitude.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about it. I was like, well, I said I was going to take mushrooms today. I'm like, it would be kind of like wussing out if I didn't take mushrooms and play the show. So not a ton, but just a little bit of mushrooms I took. And it was, it was definitely interesting. It was a smaller place and wasn't like as big of a show. We were only playing with a couple of bands, not like bigger bands or anything like that. So, we started playing the show, and it was like, some people in there. And what I was doing on that tour was, there's one song in particular we would play back then called Ebb Flow, where the end of the song is just like a minute or something with no vocals. So over the years, I would always just do crazy shit in the crowd. And I don't know, just stupid antics, sometimes funny stuff, or you know. And what I was doing on this tour was I had a battery powered like buzzer, like a hair buzzer. So I would jump into the crowd and give the crowd the buzzer and like offer them to like start shaving my head. Like little by little, I was losing more and more and more.
Yeah.
So at South by, when that part came, I ran out into the street, and it was in the afternoon. So I run out in the street. I was probably shirtless, and I start shaving my head and yelling to everybody like, come into the show, this and that. And I can remember seeing everyone's face look at me like I was about to start shooting or something. So and I'm like a little wavy on mushrooms too. So I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, what am I doing? You know? And then I like started like making some jokes like, don't you like music and beer? Come see the show, you know, like
not knowing that you're the singer.
Yeah. You know, while I'm shaving my head or whatever. But it works. We got a ton of people that came in. You know,
That's awesome.
I mean, I would have been like, all right, I got to see what the hell this is about. So that was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Another interesting thing about South by was one night we were staying at, so Ray, our drummer, and our good buddy Anthony Lapardo, they own a studio called Westfall Recording Company, and that's where we always record our albums. That's, you know, except for the last one, Phototrope. But yeah, Ray's been engineering us this whole time. There was a branch of Westfall, or like the guys they bought Westfall from had a spot in Austin, so we were crashing there. These details don't matter, but we were crashing there in Austin, and it was about like, you know, 15 minutes or so outside of the city and where all the shit was going down. So one night we start to head back to the studio to shack up for the night. And I'm driving with Paul in his car. He was parked in a parking garage. So we get into the car, pull out of the spot, start driving down the parking garage. And then I just happen to look behind me, and there is a man in the back seat who's passed out like this, and both of his hands are down his pants. And so I'm thinking, all right, how do I tell Paul this without him freaking out and crashing the car right now? So I was just like, hey, Paul, can you just pull into a spot for a second? I just want to check something out really quick. What? Well, okay. He pulls into a spot, and I get out and I open the door, and I'm like, bro, you got to get out of here. Like, wake this guy up. Paul freaks out, you know, like, and he starts like going in his trunk, rummaging for like water or something to get the guy, because God bless Paul, he's a super, you know, compassionate person. And then the guy was just so confused as to why I was waking him up. Like, I started to like pull him out of the car, and he was just like, oh, like trying to go back in, like, let me sleep kind of thing. I was like, no, you got to get out of here. I'm like, sir. Paul's like, sir, do you like need some water? Or do you know? I'm like, Paul, no, we're not helping this guy. I'm like, get him out of the car. Just like kind of like got him out, closed the door, got in the car, and just bolted out of there. And Paul and I are just kind of like for a second, just like, and then just like bursting out into nervous laughter. But yeah, if we didn't see him, we would have driven him like 15, 20 minutes away from the city, and then have no idea what to do with the guy. So
was there ever any explanation for that, or that was it? Like, that's where
Nope.
you left it? It just,
we did not.
You got the guy out, and that was it?
Yep. I was just like, I don't want to know. I don't want to engage this guy. Like, I don't want to deal with like a drunk or high person,
Right.
like tripping on acid or something like that. Like, I don't want to become part of this guy's journey tonight.
You
like,
should have gave him the clippers to just start.
yeah. Or just start cutting his hair in his sleep, and just maybe feel like, oh, this is why I'm here, for a haircut.
There was a past guest. I may have told you this last time, but there was a past guest on that shared a story that they're in a band called Bungler. They're from Buffalo, but they do a lot of touring, or they used to do a lot of touring rather. And they were in Canada, I believe, and they were like, you know, they were on some tour with the package, and they stopped at a Planet Fitness because some of the guys had, you know, whatever the membership is, that you can go in and just shower or whatever. And the guy that was there taking pictures with them would use the Wi-Fi to edit and then post stuff up that night, whatever, as, you know, photographers do to try and keep stuff moving along for the bands. But the rest of the band, the whole band got in the van and went to sleep, and the photographer went inside to do work. Well, they left the van unlocked. So when they woke up, the van was moving, and they didn't think anything of it, because a lot of times bands someone will wake up early and be like, all right, I'll just drive. We got to drive. I'm just going to drive.
Yeah, yeah.
The singer apparently wakes up, he looks in the back seat, he sees the bassist, he looks in the front, he sees the guitarist, he sees the drummer, and then he sees the bassist, and he's like, oh shit, that's not you. Some dude got in their van and accidentally kidnapped them and just drove off.
Oh my God.
So it's not the same, but like kind of the
reversed.
same. And
Yeah.
then a whole thing, like a whole thing kind of happened where like the guitarist jumped from the back seat, just started punching this dude in the face, like, get the fuck out of our van, freaking out at him. He tucked and rolled out
Jesus
of the van.
Christ.
And apparently he was just hammered, and he was like, I need to ride home. And they would hang the keys from the visor, and they hung it from the visor. He saw keys, and he was like, oh, I'll just go home.
Oh God. Jesus
just
Christ.
Accidental, kidnapping.
Accidental kidnapping. Yeah.
Pretty wild, man.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, I don't know what I would have done there.
That's horrifying. Even just having someone you don't like know in the backseat, just like, holy shit. That's
just hire him as a driver at that point,
Yeah, right. You looking for a job? That's crazy. So next here you have scary driving stories.
Oh my God. I mean, like there's so many like to pick from, like, there's not like necessarily one. Thank God we've never been in an accident or anything like that before. But this is more generally talking about like one of the scarier sides of tours. Like, yeah, sometimes the drives are fucking horrifying.
Mm-hmm.
We have broken down in every type of weather. We've broken down in like monsoon type of rain, scorching heat in the desert. We broke down on a mountain in Massachusetts in like 5 feet of snow, where we had to wait for like 5 hours and just like put on every bit of clothing that we had and just start drinking whiskey to stay warm. Yeah, and there was one drive in probably the scariest time I've ever been driving, like in my life, in or outside a tour. We were heading into, maybe it was Colorado Springs or somewhere, but like we were on these like windy mountainous roads, and it was snowing so much and the roads were so slick that like I had actually Anthony, who I mentioned, Lapardo from Westfall, the studio, he was with us on that tour. He was in the passenger seat, and I had him looking at my speedometer to tell me how fast I was going and the directions and whatnot. Cause like if I even took my eyes off of the windshield just to look down at the speedometer, that was enough to just like lose control. The slightest little bit I did this, the whole trailer started wobbling out. Cars were going off the road left and right. Everybody was driving with their hazards on, going like 20 miles an hour. Like it was really scary, that one. I've never been more happy to get to a hotel, and breathe easy. But
was that through the Rockies?
I forget exactly where we were, but yeah, going through the Rockies.
Yeah, I have a very similar experience with that. I feel like anybody who drives through the Rockies has experienced that at some point, just because when you're pulling a trailer too, like what breaks, especially when it's snowing, you're just going to keep moving. Terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. It can be a real nightmare. I mean, there was one time Ray was driving and, everybody else was sleeping. We were doing overnight. I have no idea where we were, somewhere that there could be snow clearly. But, I remember like waking up to Ray being like, help, somebody, help. I need hands, like, and I like looked up and it looked like somebody had painted the windows like white of the van, like it was nighttime, but it was snowing so thick that like you just couldn't see anything. The same thing on the windshield, like you could not see like a foot in front of the car, and we're just, cruising down the highway. So I had to like my underwear, like I was like dead asleep, like just like crawl over all the other guys to the passenger seat and just like open the window and try to see if like is there like a drop next to us or something, which there was a little bit off the road. And we had like slowed down, but luckily nothing bad ever happened, really, just like some really intense, scary drives.
Where are you guys located?
We're based out of Long Island.
Okay, so you deal with snow, just maybe not to the extent of other places.
Yeah, definitely. yeah, it's just more so through the mountains and whatnot on snowy drives that becomes really not fun, especially when you're sleeping, because even if you're like your buddy driving like is totally safe and fine, if you're asleep, every little jolt or turn, you're like, oh my God, like,
Yeah. See, but that's where the whiskey comes in, because when I would tour with my band, I'd say I drove 80% of the time, mainly because I don't trust people with my life.
Yep.
But if I wasn't driving, I was sleeping on the loft that I built in the back. So if I'm not driving, I'm sleeping, because if I'm gonna die, I don't want to be awake for it, kind of thing. That was like the mentality behind it.
Yeah.
And if you can't sleep and you're moving around because of that shit, that's when you start downing beers and shit.
Yep. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, and that's another fun thing about van setups. Like I've made a couple of like bunk bed kind of situations, loft things. That's always a lot of fun to figure out ways to turn the van into something that's like decently comfortable.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's nothing like finishing a long shift of driving and then going to the back of the van and be like, all right, I'm done driving for the day. And like on those days where there's not a show, it's just like a driving day or whatever through the night. It's like, all right, I'm done. I'm going to get some whiskey. I'm going to get some horrible junk food from this gas station and set up and like watch a movie on my phone or something.
Exactly.
So it was a fun.
Exactly. Those are that was probably one of the more fun things about touring, was just like although I will say, like, you can only check Twitter and Instagram so many times before you want to blow your head off, because it's the same thing the whole time,
Yeah.
Okay, let's see what we got here. The friend in Canada with the mushrooms.
Oh yeah, well, this is somebody that we just met. It was like a brother and sister who had come to the show. The brother was like a fan of us, and we were chatting with them, and I was talking to his sister, and she's like, yeah, I should probably go check on my brother because he's on mushrooms. I'm like, oh, no kidding. She's like, yeah, so am I. I'm like, really? And then she just kind of showed me like some mushrooms that she had in her hand, and I was laughing. And then she just started kind of bringing the mushrooms closer to my mouth. And the time that she was doing that, I was like, okay, don't do this. Like, this is a bad idea. Just take mushrooms from somebody you just met, but then the other part of me was like, this is an adventure. This is why we do this. So yeah, I was just like, all right, fuck it. And just gobbled some down. And again, not too much, but yeah, that was after the show. So, I took them, and then we all hopped in the van because we had to drive through the night.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, our buddy Joe was driving, and we were in a like a Chevy like conversion van, with like the pop tops.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe's really amazing with cars, so he rigged up like this crazy battery system. So we had a mini fridge in there.
That's
we're
awesome.
able to run a hot plate. So yeah, in the middle of winter and somewhere in Canada, I don't remember, is Montreal or Toronto, but yeah, we were just like slightly on mushrooms. Not Joe, not the driver. I was slightly on mushrooms, cooking eggs and sausages on this hot plate we had on top of the fridge, like right in between the driver's seat and the passenger seat.
Yeah.
And everybody's just kind of like standing there ready to catch it if it just goes flying or anything like that.
Were you tripping? Were you tripping balls?
No, not too much. Just enough, but not too gnarly.
Catch a buzz kind of deal.
Yeah. But it was more so just it was a good example of like, that's part of the best things about tours. Like, you get these experiences that you never would have got at home. I mean, you can get mushrooms at home. That one's not that crazy, but
right.
Just the idea of like, choosing to be like, all right, I'm going to lean into whatever this situation is, as long as it's not going to hurt anybody else or, not hurt myself too bad
right.
or something like that. But yeah, that's part of the fun of why we love touring so much, is just getting experiences. And yeah, we usually jump at them.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. You definitely make choices on tour that you wouldn't at home. You're more likely to do something that you're like, if you were home, you're like, I got to get up in the morning or whatever. But yeah, no, that's definitely true. I agree with that. Next on the list here, we have Intronaut Gorilla Costume.
So this was, I want to say like 2016 or something like that. Intronaut took us out, and that was the first time we ever went out to California. which was really cool. And yeah, we were out with Intronaut and Entheos, and we really bonded with both those bands a lot. We became good friends with them. And the last show was I forget where in California, but it was their like homecoming show. Good venue, the vibes are all good. Everybody had a great tour, so we're having some drinks, and I'm hanging out in this is like, I don't know, 5-10 minutes before we're about to open the show, because we were the openers on that package. I'm hanging out in Intronaut's green room, and they have a bunch of friends coming through, because it's hometown shit. And they're like, "Oh yeah, John, this is our friend Ben. This is Justin." I'm like, "Hey, nice to meet you guys." And the guy Justin is talking with an accent. I'm like, "Oh, I wonder where they met that guy, or if he's just visiting out here, like, or if he's from, I forget if he's English or Australian, but it was one of those accents." And then I'm like looking at him, and I'm thinking like his name Justin, and I'm listening to his voice, and I'm looking at him, I'm like, "Oh, that is Justin Chancellor from Tool, the bass player." I'm like, "What the fuck?" The last time I had seen like press photos of him, he had like long hair. Now his like head was shaved. So I'm like, Tool is like one of the first bands to really introduce me to like, I don't know, good music. Like, I found them when I was in like 8th grade or something, when like Lateralis came out and changed my fucking life. Like, I'm not an insufferable Tool fan,
Right.
like many of them can be. But yeah, their music changed my life. It really opened me up to like real musicianship and artistry, and trying to really put some thought into what you're making. So yeah, they were revolutionary for me. So I'm bugging out.
Are you
but right
saying
before,
are you saying that you don't have a Tool tramp stamp?
I do not have
Oh man, you're not
a
a true
burning
fan.
eye tramp stamp. No, I never got any Tool tattoos. No. But what do you call it? Yeah, so I tell Nick, like, as we're about to walk on stage, I'm like, "Bro, Justin Chancellor from Tool is here." Just kind of like, "What?" So we play the set. We're having a great set, really cool venue. Also, you're just last night of the tour. You usually tend to play good sets if you're not burnt out, if the tour wasn't shitty or anything, because the last hurrah kind of thing. And I'm jumping into the crowd, and at a certain point, like Justin Chancellor was in the crowd, and I'm jumping around, getting in people's faces, like, making them laugh and messing with their hair and stuff. And I see him like, I'm like, "This is fucking nuts, man." The last song of that set was a song called "Offered Blood," where there's like a spoken word part towards the end of the song. And when we did it live, the last couple words of it, I waited for the band to get totally silent, and I just say the last 2 lines silently, and it's all dramatic and, whatever. And then big crescendo to end the song, and the, outro with the whole band and everything like that. So when I'm doing this quiet part, the whole crowd starts laughing, and I'm like, "What the fuck is going on?" And I turn around, and there's a man in a gorilla costume walking up, and the rest of the guys from Intronaut holding up signs that said, "Bush did Harambe, shine on you, sweet gorilla," because that was when they shot Harambe.
Yeah, right around that time.
Everybody was talking about that year. So and that was, yeah, it was really funny. And it was sweet too. It was like a really sweet thing from this band that we looked up to and listened to before we met them, and as like a last little kind of fun joke on the road. So it was cool that they did that. And I found out later that the mushroom, I got mushrooms on the brain right now. The monkey costume was Justin Chancellor's, so that's why he'd come out. They had called him up. They toured with Tool, so they were buddies with him. And
so he supplied the prank.
Yeah, they're like, "You got to bring the gorilla costume, dude." But it was awesome. I afterwards, like, I didn't want to punish him, but I had to talk to him for a little bit, and like, I just went up to him and be like, "Hey man, just want to say thank you for making amazing music, whatever." And then we ended up talking for like 20 minutes or so. I'm like, just really super nice guy who's talking about like, kind of where he lives and just band life relations and kind of mixing it all together and whatnot. It was really fucking mind blowing.
That's awesome. What did he have to say about your guys' performance?
He said he's never seen anything so amazing, and it made him really want to step up his game in Tool because he thought that they were falling short. No, I'm just kidding. I don't remember. I mean, I'm sure he was just like, yeah, that was cool. You know, he was really nice about it. Like he was out watching the show and like, you know, bobbing his head and having a good time. So,
yeah,
you know,
that's good.
But yeah, it was just nice to kind of like talk to one of your heroes and just kind of throw out with them, you know, because I never want to be like, can I get a picture? Or things like I don't give a shit about getting a picture or an autograph. You know,
It's better
if I
to
have
have a
people,
conversation.
yeah. If there's people I look up to, you know, if I get the chance, I really want to jump at just the chance to like look them in the eye and just say thank you. Your shit changed a lot for me. You
And
know?
they appreciate that more too. You know.
Yeah.
Because they're just normal ass people too. Unless you're Kanye, then you're just a nut job and
yeah.
whatever.
And unless the person in question is like, you're like, dude, your music is so sick. Thanks, man. No, but like your guitar tone, dude, like really, dude. Thank you. I appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
No, dude, but really, it's just like, okay, I accept it. You know, like, but yeah,
And
no, he was
that's
really
what
cool.
you mean by punishing.
Yes, yeah.
A lot, not musicians or band people would not understand
Oh
what
yeah,
that means.
I forget about that. Yeah, Punisher is somebody. You know, God bless him. Anybody who supports, you know, your music, but a Punisher is somebody who maybe just does not picking up on the social cues of like, all right, you're like wearing this person down with what you're saying, you know, like, you
get
know,
in
but
and get out.
yeah, Punishers could be anybody in conversation. Everybody's talked to somebody like that, like, man, this guy is not stopping talking, and you know, but it only gets problematic when you're like, I haven't slept or showered in like 2 days and I'm starving and I just played a set and my whole body hurts and I need to sit down.
Right. Yeah. It's I don't know if I've actually like met really anyone that was that big of a deal for me to like want to freak out like that, but try and play it cool, you know? Although like I worked at a venue out here in Buffalo for the entirety of playing in that band that I was touring with, and you get some pretty cool people out there. But yeah, the punishment is usually something you want to avoid.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I'll be honest though, like it happens sometimes. Sometimes, even though you've been in a band for so long, you end up accidentally punishing somebody. I was at a show. This is probably a year ago. It was like last March. I went to see Pile in Brooklyn, and they're like a really amazing band. And I was talking to the singer, guitar player afterwards, and again, just wanted the chance to just be like, I really love your music. I think you have something really amazing, and it really stirs something up in me. So thank you. Good night. You know, but I was drunk at that point, and I think a lot of it came out like, dude, your guitar tones and like it's fucking like, how do you do that? Stuff like that. I don't know if it was too bad, but in my head afterwards and the next day, I was like, oh no, what did I do?
Yeah.
But luckily, I was an acquaintance with somebody that was doing sound for them on the road. So I hit them up at the next day, like, hey, just if he remembers that, just apologize, say like that Punisher dude is sorry for punishing. He didn't mean to do that.
You know, now that I think of it, I do remember hearing that I did that once to the lead singer of Every Time I Die, who's from Buffalo, and we're acquaintances. But I blacked out, and it was one of the Christmas shows that they would do.
Yeah.
And I guess I like talked his ear off, and then the girl I was dating at the time was like, "Yeah, check your phone." I was like, "What?" I had like pictures with him and all this shit. I'm like, I've known this dude for like a couple of years at the time. You know, I wasn't like super close with him, but we were acquaintances. And look at my phone, I'm like, oh no, this is terrible.
Yeah,
but
it happens, man.
Yeah, for sure.
You know,
alcohol really ruins everything.
Yep,
you could be as cool as ever, and then alcohol will just ruin everything.
Yep, that's right.
Speaking of alcohol, let's hear the story about Dennis Rodman. That dude likes alcohol.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this well, he did at the time. I think he's sober now, or at least he was after this. So yes, this is one of the bigger stories that comes up when it comes to our touring history. We had done a full US headliner. We brought our buddies Husbandry from Brooklyn out, and we were playing the Viper Room in LA. And as we're playing the show, in my peripherals, I see this gentleman walking towards the stage with like sunglasses and a hat, really tall guy. And split second in my head, like my brain processed it, nanosecond. I was like, that's Dennis Rodman. And I was like, that's stupid. Just because we're in California, like, no, it's not Dennis Rodman, like, and then like as the guy got closer, like he had a cigar and he had a wad of singles, like a big stack of singles. And I like looked at him like, yeah, that's fucking Dennis Rodman. So he like walked up to the stage and he like made it rain $100 in singles over the band. Which is pretty funny. Yeah, you can look it up online. There's I think Metal Sucks and Metal Injection posted videos of it. But yeah, after that we finished the song, and then one of our buddies from Husbandry wrote on Nick's set list, Dennis Rodman wants to take the mic, wants to sing a song on the microphone or something like that. I ended up framing that set list and giving it to Nick for his birthday one year after that. But yeah, so we're like, all right. And they're like, hey, buddy, you want the mic? Like, here you go. Of course, you're gonna give it to Dennis Rodman. And then like, yeah, he was really drunk, but he was saying some nice things about the Viper Room and just like the music scene and everything like that. And then he led the crowd along in a sing-along of Three Little Birds by Bob Marley.
Okay.
So
did you guys play it, or they just played it over the speakers?
No, it was just singing along, and the whole room was a cappella. Yeah, singing along to it. Very surreal. Yeah. So years later, we made a tank top that's like a Bulls jersey, except instead of the bull, it's like a white like stag, because we had a song called White Stag from our first record. But we had moon on the front, tooth on the back, and then the jersey number was Rodman's number as like a tribute to him.
Brilliant.
But yeah, I wonder if we'll ever talk to him again, or like meet him again. Like, hey man, this was a huge deal.
Did you ever get to have a conversation with him, or he was gone before you got off the stage?
Vanished into the night before the show was over.
I feel like he wouldn't be hard to track down.
No.
He makes his presence known.
Yeah, no, but yeah, that was pretty wild. Yeah, some of the internet guys were there that night too. That was fun getting hang with them. But they're like, yeah, this is fucking ridiculous.
That's funny, man. What was your your first big tour as a band, as far as like the one that you felt like, okay, now we're in it, you know what I mean? Like, it's not DIY anymore.
I'm trying to think. I mean, the South by thing was a big deal, but we were just doing that ourselves mostly. I think we had a booking agent at the time helping out with that.
Was there a band that you remember going out with being like, okay, now we're the real deal kind of thing?
I mean, it happened a few different times. Like Intronaut, like that was one of the first, like I said, that was the first time we had ever gone out to the West Coast.
Okay.
That was a band that we all listened to. So that was definitely a big deal. Those were probably the first guys that we really looked up to that took us out. But yeah, since then there's been like going out with Mark Morton from Lamb of God was crazy. I mean, Mark worked on our second record, Crux. Like we went to his house and did pre-production there. So like that was wild, just to be in that place.
What was that like? As far as like the writing, was he like hands-on with everything, or?
Yeah, that was a crazy experience because we worked, it was like, I forget if it was right before Christmas or right after Christmas. But we worked every day from like 8 or 9 in the morning to like 2 in the morning, and just occasionally stopping to grab some quick food, like back at the house. He had like this really big, like 2-story garage, and the second story was like his like studio kind of thing. And yeah, it was interesting. We were working with Machine and Mark Morton, because Machine got attached to the record. He ended up he did pre-pro, but he didn't do the rest of the record. He had like a conflict or something like that. But so it was Machine and Mark, and it was weird. Yeah, like the second day there was like, it was kind of like John argues with Grammy Award winning artists all day kind of day. Because like we'd never worked with a producer before, you know what I mean? So we had these songs, like some of these songs completely written for a long time. And we just didn't know how to, every time like there was something being changed or wherever. And I was just kind of like, all right, but like, I don't like that, or I don't think we should do that, or something like that. I didn't really know how to cooperate and whatnot. It was hard for me to, let go of control a little bit, and then the other guys didn't too. If the other guys all chimed in and were just like, sometimes they agreed with me, sometimes they didn't. But if they were all like, John, you got to shut up and play ball, like I would have. But we didn't know what the hell we were doing. We were so green,
Right.
And
Yeah,
Mark
and
and Machine
you're
were,
so connected to it too. Like you've put so much into it, and they're so disconnected. They're a hired gun to do exactly what you hired them to do.
yeah, you know what I mean? And they were Mark and Machine were definitely invested in it, in the project. Like they, fucking Mark Morton and Machine don't have to waste their time with like Little Moontooth at the time. This is like 2017 or something like that. Like they were invested in it. They wanted, they dug the music. They wanted to make something cool out of it. And they were incredibly patient with us. You know what I mean? After that first day of kind of like going back and forth and not arguing, but like bickering a little bit, like, we hit a groove and we figured things out, and how to kind of like make it work. And I had taught, by the end of it, I told them, like, look, thank you guys so much for your patience with me. Like, I apologize. Like, I mean, I wasn't throwing like hissy fits. Nobody was yelling at me or anything, but it was just like, it was complicated at first. But I let them know like how much I appreciated their patience, and we ended up making some really good songs out of it. We were really happy with the stuff that we got out of there. Some stuff was changed, some stuff wasn't changed, and some of it wasn't too far off from where we were before. But yeah, that was wild, man. Got to the point where we felt like we were hallucinating because the hours were so intense, and you were getting just physically and emotionally drained. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah, giving it your all. And that was just pre-pro, right? Yeah, that's wild to think about too. Like then you have to go and do it all over again, just to do the final product.
Yeah, and that was honestly, pre-pro was the hard part of like working with the producers and collaborating. Once we had the song set as what they were going to be, then we went to Westfall, and then Ray produced the rest of the record. So yeah,
nice. That's very cool. So what is have you guys been like out of overseas or anything like that?
No, not yet. And it's embarrassing to say now because we've been a band for 10 years. There were opportunities where sometimes there was like family obligations that we just couldn't pass up. We're usually the type of band to just be like, whatever it is, like, let's go, let's do the tour, And then there was like one tour that was like, all right, this isn't really going to be good. As much as we're trying to get over there, this is not going to be good. So let's pass on this. But like, we should have just did the horrible tour. And like, it really gets us down that we haven't been there yet, because we have fans over there. Yeah. Well, the problem is, it's like, we passed up on a tour, we couldn't do a couple of other tours. And then the fucking pandemic happened. So nobody was touring. So that was like a few years of that. And then we just started to tour again. And then Nick, our guitar player, almost died and got really sick. So that's a whole other thing that happened. So that kind of like slowed things down for a little bit too. So there's, between, Nick getting sick and the pandemic, we've had this large chunk of time where, we would have definitely gone to Europe, but,
right.
So yeah, we're definitely itching to get over there.
And Nick's good now, right? I don't want you to have to share like his thing.
No,
I
mean, it's something to talk about because we just did a tour, which is the first one since Nick got sick, first longer tour. He's hanging in there, but like that's the thing. Like we were blown away by the response that we got when he got sick, and the help. We did a GoFundMe and raised so much money for him for the medical costs and everything. And it's interesting because like once we start playing some shows and posting things. I feel like maybe there's this idea of like, yeah, Nick's all good, but like he's not, he's still dealing with this stuff like seizures. I think he'd be fine with me. He's talked about this on interviews, but seizures have become a regular part of his life. And trying to get medications right, figure out exactly what's going on. The medications are also really difficult with him. And now he's actually going to be going in to get like brain surgery.
Oh, wow.
To hopefully start the process of him getting over this stuff. But yeah, so I mean, Nick is the toughest motherfucker I know. You know Absolutely. What I mean? Like um, like I can't believe how his grit and his determination to like soldier through this stuff and keep going. Him and his wife Liana, like they've been just through so much. You know what I mean? Like it's been hard to see it to go through with him as a bandmate and as a friend, but especially the two of them, Nick and Liana, like it's been a lot. But you know, he's hanging in there. I mean, maybe this is a good segue into talking about the last tour. So we had done we did like a comeback show because Nick was basically in a coma for a little while. He had a seizure one day and collapsed. You know, just to give the background story. We were it was the day before we were going to play with Cave in I don't know if it was at Gramercy or in Boston or somewhere, I forget, but yeah, he just collapsed. He had a seizure and collapsed at the studio. Rushed him to the hospital, and then they ended up having to put him in a coma for a few weeks. And it got really bad. Yeah, it got to the point where we were just all waiting for the call saying like, you know, he's not going to make it. And but thank God he started to bounce back, and he's done different. I don't even know how many different stays he's done in the hospital now since then. But yeah, the seizures have become a regular part of his life. We've started to do some shows here and there, and then we just went on the road with Protest the Hero and the Callous Boys, and that was our first tour since first actual tours, a full US, you know, all over Canada too. And yeah, it was interesting, you know, it was rough. Like for the most part, it was fine, but you know, there was a couple of shows where he had seizures like on stage, you know. There was two that happened where it was right at the end of the set. So like we got him off set, and you know, we have in-ear monitors, so you can kind of start to hear if his playing's going weird, you know, because he's an amazing player. He doesn't really fuck up, you know, like, so once you hear something wonky, you kind of check them out and you can see like, all right, this is coming on. Let's get him off stage, get him out of here. And
so you can tell when it's happening.
Yeah. I mean, it's also just from like, you know,
I mean, you know, the guy, he's your best friend. You're around him all the
yeah,
time. Yeah.
and I can't even count how many times we've been around him for seizures and whatnot. So like you can kind of see sometimes he'll have, and I don't really know, he could tell you a lot more about this. Like I don't understand the science a whole lot, but he'll have what's called auras, which are like kind of a seizure coming on. Sometimes it just stops there, but sometimes that'll go into a seizure. So you can kind of see when it's starting to happen. But especially when he's playing, because like he'll start messing up and then he'll just kind of stop playing, you know. So when that happens, it's like, all right, get that guitar off, get him off stage, you know. So there were two shows where happened at the end of the set, and you know, we had one more song left, so we just told the crowd, like, explain briefly, and like, we're really sorry. And the crowds were incredibly supportive. Protest the Hero could not have been more supportive. You know what I mean? We were direct support to them. So, you know, I remember talking to Rhodey, their singer, and like him just saying like, look, man, you guys take as long as you need. Don't worry about going over. Don't worry if you can't play the set or if something happens. You know, they were so, you know, graceful with us and with Nick and whatnot. But yeah, we played a show in Seattle where you had one in the middle of the set or early on in the set, and he was able to, after about 10 or 15 minutes, he was able to come back out and play a few songs. Because like to Nick's credit, the first thing he always does when this happens, like once he starts to kind of come to, he just starts putting on his guitar and going to walk on stage. We're like, whoa, 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 whoa. You know, like, where are you? Can you tell us where you are right now? You know, like, what are we doing? You know, like, you know, he's still not in it, but like that just fucking soldier attitude, just like, let's go, let's do the damn thing. That's pretty crazy. But yeah, so that was definitely a whole different, there's so many challenges with tour stuff, but like, that just was a whole different, something I never thought we would deal with. And you
that
know,
was this most recent tour?
Yeah. With Protest the Hero.
That's crazy. Good for him for still doing it, but that's got to be terrifying in the moment too, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It is, you know, and it sucks if ever he has a seizure at the studio or just hanging out. Like, it's always scary. You know what I mean? It's like, it sucks. You know, sometimes they're not too bad. Sometimes they're really bad. But yeah, you know, like, but I just can't stress enough, like how tough him and his wife Liana are for like getting through this stuff. And you know, but it's like it's in all of our blood to do this, you know. So like we just don't have it in us to not go for it, regardless of what's happening.
Is that GoFundMe still up?
I don't think it's still like actively
Okay.
being. I don't know. I haven't thought about that in a while, but yeah, because that was like a year ago, over a year ago, I think. It's crazy to think of how long it's been, but
that's wild, man. That is a scary situation.
Yeah,
but,
as if band life wasn't hard enough.
Yeah, right. Good vibes sent his way, though, man. I hope that the
Thank you.
procedure and everything works out.
Yeah,
Definitely.
we're optimistic about it, but
Absolutely.
Guy's a badass though. He just keeps fighting.
Dude.
He's,
That's fucking badass for sure.
There have been times to, not to keep going on about it, but the last thing I'll say about it is that like there have been times it's happened at the studio when we've been practicing, and we get him out of the room and sit him down on the couch, and like once he starts to come out of it, he'll just go and pick up his guitar and just start shredding away, and he might not even be totally mentally back to normal yet, but it's just like his first response is just to like start ripping solos and shit, which is just a really testament to his character and how much this is ingrained in who he is.
It's got to be like therapeutic for him too, though.
Yeah,
because it's got to make him feel normal in that moment after just because I've never had a seizure, but I'm assuming that it takes so much out of you.
I imagine. Yeah, I mean, he tells us a little bit what his experience is like, but there's no way I could ever understand it.
Right. Yeah. Not unless you were to experience it yourself. Yeah. That's crazy. With what do you have? Do you guys have a favorite city to play every time you tour?
It's hard to pick a favorite. We definitely have our favorites. Like LA is always fun. Just because like the bigger cities are always fun. LA is fun, but also can be a real pain in the ass too. There's usually some kind of bullshit with like load in time and, depending upon the venue and just like, I don't know. There's usually a lot of people that come out. But yeah, I could never live in LA, but it's always a fun kind of night to just hang out and party there. But yeah, I mean, some of the East Coast cities we cut our teeth playing shows in. Those are always great because we have good followings.
Mm-hmm.
Bigger cities like Denver is great to play. That's one of my favorites.
Have you been to Red Rocks Theater there? Like just gone? Dude,
no.
If you guys get a chance and you have like, even just an hour of time or whatever, it is incredible to see because it's just like, enough room for thousands of people in these stands, but it's all built into the mountain. And there's red mountain rocks just all over. It's crazy to see.
Yeah. It's definitely a bucket list to go there and play there would be amazing. Playing
there would be insane.
But yeah, a lot of the bigger like Chicago, Denver, Nashville. Those are usually the fun ones to play. But then we find places like Lawrence, Kansas that we've never heard of before, but it's a small college town and it's such a cool fucking town, and we love playing there. Been back there quite a few times. Lincoln, Nebraska, that's another one that I never would have heard of, but so you find some really cool cities in the nooks and crannies.
Yeah, I played in Lincoln, Nebraska once, but it was there was a football game. During our show, or maybe the next day or something. And that city shuts down for football. Yeah. They are a college football team. They shut down. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah,
okay. Man. What was it like on the Animals as Leaders tour?
That was awesome, that tour. We did. Who was that? That was Animals as Leaders. I'm mixing up tours now. Who was on what tour? But
I'm asking you to dig deep here with 10 years of experiences.
Yeah. But I mean, that was awesome. Because those were at that time those were the biggest venues we played. The New York show was Irving Plaza, which is a venue that we grew up going to. So to do that, and this is something I think I had mentioned to you, like. There was a moment on that tour, and it wasn't even in Irving Plaza. It was maybe in Ohio or somewhere, but I had a moment backstage watching Animals as Leaders where, like, when I was younger, I don't remember if I was at like Bonnaroo or some show in New York City or something, but I remember just like watching the band up there and thinking like, I'm gonna fucking do it. Like one day, like I'm going to be the person on that big stage looking down here. Like I'm going to fucking do this. The way this makes me feel, like I want in on that, and I'm gonna make it fucking happen at any cost, you know? So there was a moment on this Animals tour where I was watching them from side stage and looking at this packed house and kind of looking at like the stage rigging of like the curtains and stuff from the back side. So basically all the stuff that you don't see from the crowd, you know, like the ropes, the rigging and stuff like that. And it just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks, like, oh fuck, like this is what I was talking about. Now I have the view from up here and not down in the crowd. And that was a really like special moment that sticks out in my head from touring.
Yeah.
Yeah, really thinking like, man, fucking it took a lot and there's been a lot of sacrifice and suffering for it, but like we're fucking here, you know. But this is only the start, you know. There's so many bigger stages and things to get to and push on with.
Absolutely. Know? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Though. Did that band's insane.
Yeah.
That band, they're just insane. They've played where I used to work a couple times, and I just remember watching the drummer and being like, dude, you're doing blast beat ghost notes on the snare throughout every song. Just I don't know. That's me nerding out a little bit there. But
they were insane to watch and the guys were really cool. You know, they were really nice to us, and watching them every night was just like, holy shit! They're just putting on a clinic. It was fucking amazing.
Absolutely, yeah. Next year, lastly on the list, you have Daytona.
Oh yeah, Daytona. We played what is it? Welcome to Rockville, I think it is. In Daytona, like on the racetrack, and that was really special because we had I think that was when we were going out with Dance Gavin Dance. That was in the middle of that tour or towards the end or that tour or something like that. But yeah, it was wild. I'd never played a fest. We've done some festivals, but I never played a festival that big before. So it was cool, like getting carted around in the golf carts and having like a trailer and whatnot. You know, that was a lot of fun. But the cool thing about it was like my uncle Tom had passed away a couple years prior to this, and it was a crazy, like a sudden thing out of nowhere. It was really awful experience for my family and my cousins. You know, it goes without saying. But he was a huge NASCAR fan and a huge like Dale Earnhardt fan. So to be out there on that track there, that was like definitely an emotional day. Like it was amazing to play that show and that stage to begin with, but just thinking about my uncle and whatnot, and even during the set, I talked about him in between songs and got the crowd to like make some noise for him, and awesome. Yeah, it was cool. And we got to at the end of the night, one of the workers there took us on a golf cart and took us on the track. So we got to like ride the track at Daytona. I'm like, this is fucking crazy. It's another one of those things where I'm just like, when would I have ever been rolling down the track at Daytona? Not that like I'm not a big racing guy, but it's amazing, like.
That's a cool experience. Is it like crazy slanted, the sides?
Yeah.
The whole track?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could imagine.
Pretty much. Yeah, it was awesome, man.
Yeah. Do you what's your favorite thing to do in cities like on an off day? Like just adventuring around a city. Do you guys like to go do outdoorsy things?
Honestly, I'd say more so you look for the chance to do outdoors kind of stuff. There've been a couple times we've been able to camp like on days off. And that's really cool. I saw the Grand Canyon for the first time on a tour. We saw like Yosemite, Yellowstone. Seeing stuff like that because like we're in cities every time. So like, and it's fun. It's cool. I love seeing like a world famous city that I've never been to. At this point in the US, I have a big map up here. That's why I keep like looking over here.
Is it one of the scratch off ones?
Not really. I'll turn it up here a little bit. So it's I put little whiteout markers for the cities we played and whatnot. But we what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, the city. It's like, so it's cool to see these world famous cities for the first time and get to experience and drink in the local culture and whatnot.
Hmm.
But yeah, we don't get a lot of outdoors time stuff, so that's usually what we go to. On this last run, even though we're from New York, I had never been to Niagara Falls, so went there. That was pretty mind blowing.
Okay, were you on the New York side or the Canada?
We were on the Canada side.
You were okay. Good. The
yeah.
New York side is. I live freaking 30 minutes from it.
Yeah.
So I've seen it so many times, but it is the United States side could use some work. It's not great.
I mean, that's what I always heard, but I didn't expect the Canada side to be like a fucking mini Las Vegas almost, or something like, like
yeah.
And it's just like all these like
Ripley's Believe
lights.
It or Not, and
yeah,
all that
yeah,
crap,
Ripley's, Rainforest Cafe,
yeah.
which I didn't know was still a thing. But yeah, that was really really cool. So yeah, usually we try to do some like outdoor stuff.
What'd you think of the falls? I want to hear your perspective, because I grew up in the area, so it's like when I see it, I'm like, oh yeah, whatever, cool.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I mean, yeah, it was definitely really cool to see, and sometimes I don't know. Yeah, it was like we saw it at night first, so like yeah, it was
They
really
had it all
special.
lit up.
Yeah, that was cool seeing the different lights. But then after when we were going home, that was the last day of that tour, was Toronto. So the next day we were on the bridge for a while, sitting in traffic and getting to see it during the daytime.
Yeah,
and that was it was really special, man. It was cool. Just shit that you grew up reading about. Again, that's really kind of what I'm saying. Like whether it's cities or like natural things in the world, like being able to be there and see it in person is like, wow, this is truly an adventure. I didn't think I'd see this just on my own.
Yeah. No, so there's kind of sidetracked, but they years and years and years ago they had to do some work on the falls, so they redirected the water and basically shut the falls off. So there was no water coming over the falls.
That's wild.
When they would do that, they would give tours walking across the falls. And right before COVID, they were supposed to do it again, and then they changed plans and they haven't done it yet or whatever. But that, I feel like that is something that if they do it, everybody's got to do it, because that's going to be insane,
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. They also had this thing that in middle school, I went on this field trip, that river there that is it's connected to, it's called Whirlpool Jet Rides, where you get in this big jet boat and they go through all the white water rafts and everything, in the river there. And you just get drenched in water, but it's a lot of fun. You get real close to the falls and everything. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. If you ever get, I'm sure you probably won't, but if you ever get a chance, I'd look into that on a off day or something, because it's definitely an experience. Let's see.
Yeah,
here.
for sure.
So, what do you have a record that you guys always throw on when you're in the van, like no matter what, every tour? Maybe something that hypes you up before a show.
There's not necessarily one that we put on. There's definitely stuff that gets played a lot. It's funny because like if I'm driving or Vin's driving and one of us is like trying to stay awake or whatever, the other one will put on Is a Real Boy by Say Anything, because like Vin and I used to nerd out over that in high school, and the other guys fucking hate it, so throw that on. But there's always like Pantera, and Nick and Ray grew up on that shit, and a wide variety of stuff. We all have a pretty like wide sense of music taste, but sometimes there'll be like podcasts or stand-up specials and whatnot. Yeah, it's varied. There's not necessarily one that's like always a go-to kind of thing.
I gotcha. All right, well, I guess we're gonna wind down here. I really appreciate you coming on again, man. After last time, that was devastating. It was such a good episode. This is another great episode, so perfect. But yeah, if you got anything going on you want to promote, now would be the time.
Yeah, I mean, we no shows for right now. Like I said, Nick's gonna get through the surgery, and then we'll see what happens in the months that follows. I would just say, keep an eye on our socials, Instagram, Facebook, and we're on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, all that stuff. There may or may not be stuff to keep an eye out for coming soon. Cannot confirm or deny anything. But yeah, I mean, right now, while like we have to take it easy with gigging a little bit, like we'll be back on the road before too long for sure. But like, if you want to support the band in great ways by buying merch, yeah, it's a great way to support us. If you go to Instagram and hit like the link in the bio, that sends you to all the links you need. But especially off of like Bandcamp, we sell a bunch of stuff. But yeah, that's a great way while we're kind of, because bands make their money from touring. That's really where you're going to get your most money. So while we can't do that immediately, yeah, buying some merch would be super helpful. So yeah, get them t-shirts.
Perfect.
Get them records.
Thanks again, man. Everybody, thank you for sticking around, checking out the episode. Everything they've got going on, all of their social media links, everything for their merch. Make sure you pick something up. It'll be down in the description below. Tell a family member, tell a friend, get the word out about the podcast. Anything helps. I appreciate you. Yeah. Have a good one.
Cheers.